Okay, first off, you know who I am. I'm Kevin Price. I grew up in a small town in Green River, Utah. So, anyone knows where that is? It's where we grow a lot of watermelons back when I was a kid. Um, my bachelor's and master's are in botany and range science. My PhD is in geography. And so let me go on. I'm going to talk about a plant we found on the Zarahemla Temple site. And I assume most of our audience is LDS. So when I use that term Zarahemla, you probably know that that was the capital city of the people in the Book of Mormon. Um, I'm a member of a group called the Land of Promise Uncovering Ancient America. And I work closely with a man named Wayne May, who some of you may know. Can you see my mouse as I move it around?
Yes.
Okay, so I can use it as a pointer. Okay, so I went to BYU, did a bachelor's and master's in botany and range science, and then my PhD was in biogeography, which is basically plant science, remote sensing, and geographic information systems. So I was using imagery from outer space to study the Earth. Where is the ancient city of Zarahemla? It's been a question since I was a missionary in the Anaheim mission, and you probably heard Lee tell you that he was in the same mission. In fact, he was the assistant to the president when I came in as a brand new elder and introduced me to the mission. So Lee was probably one who assigned me to my very first area in the mission field in Anaheim. Um, well, the Lord told Joseph Smith where Zarahemla was located. It's in Doctrine and Covenants 125, verse 3. It says, "Let them build up a city unto my name upon the land opposite the city of Nauvoo, and let the name of Zarahemla be named upon it." Now, I've had people say, well, that doesn't mean that's where Zarahemla is. And I said, then what does it mean? And I never get an answer. So we interpret that as meaning the Lord was telling us where the ancient city of Zarahemla was. And I've always been interested in plants, as you might have guessed. And I remember reading in the Book of Mormon, it says, "And there were some who died with fever, which at some seasons of the year were very frequent in the land, but not so frequent so with fever because of the excellent quality of the many plants and roots which God had prepared to remove the cause of disease to which men were subject by the nature of the climate." And so anyone ever wonder what that plant might be? Well, I wondered, but I figured I would have to wait till the second coming to learn that. I think the Lord has blessed us with that answer already. So many people don't realize that malaria was rampant in the United States. In fact, they estimate there was over 1 million Civil War soldiers who were infected with malaria. And notice in that scripture that I read from the Book of Mormon, it says that the seasonal fever, that the fever was seasonal. Well, I know how bad the fever can be because I've had a friend nearly die on me with malaria when I was working in Africa, in Zambia. He was so hot, he was like a firecracker. We barely got into the hospital before he died. And the thing that's interesting about Mesoamerica, where some believe the Book of Mormon people lived, is that malaria transmission in Guatemala is perennial, with most cases occurring during the rainy season, which lasts from May until the end of October. So malaria is not seasonal in Mesoamerica, but it was seasonal in North America. Before I discuss the plant, which I believe Alma referred to, let's discuss the use of the Israelites of some important plants for the law of Moses. I think this will open up your eyes to some interesting possibilities. Remember, certain plants were required to live the law of Moses. So in other words, when Lehi landed in America, he had to land at a latitude that was very similar to Jerusalem to get the plants to grow that he may have. That latitude striking goes right through northern Florida. The northern Florida is at the same latitude as Jerusalem. So let's first talk about the amazing plant family. The plant we're going to talk about is in the mint family, and there's about 7,000 different species of mint. Some mints that you may not be aware of are things like sage, and peppermint, basil, rosemary, thyme, spotted bee balm, oregano, lavender, and many, many others. But there was just a few. I'll come back to a few more. You can tell if you've got a mint by just feeling the stem. When you put your fingers on the stem of the plant, if the stem is square, then it is likely a mint. But the other dead ringer for it is that the leaves on the stems come off opposite of one another, and then they alternate and come off in the opposite direction up one segment. So they just alternate back and forth, and that is the mint. Plus, the blossoms are what they refer to as bilateral symmetry, which means if you sliced down the center of this blossom, like you see down here, you could fold it and it would be a mirror image of each other. That's another indication that you're looking at a mint. Now, there's 7,200 species, 200 genera. They're used because of their ornamental value. They have a high flavor quality. They have high aroma, and their essential oils are very powerful. Medicinal properties of their monoterpenoids and phenols is also a very important part of this plant. So when you have menthol comes from a mint. So here's thyme, here's lavender, here's basil and rosemary, and here's sage. Now here's the one that many of you have seen, and that's a mint, coleus. All right, so there was an important plant in Jerusalem that the Israelites had to have for the Feast of the Passover, and it was called hyssop. And they're not quite sure if they know whether the top flowers that are white here or the one down below that are purple are the hyssop that's talked about in the Bible. I tend to favor the purple one, and for reasons you'll maybe pick up on a little bit later. But both of these plants are also in the mint family. David asked God to cleanse him with hyssop. The hyssop plant was used during the Feast of the Passover to dip the end of the plant blossoms in the blood of the sacrificed lamb to mark the doorpost so that the destroying angel would go by you. So you had to use hyssop for that purpose. The word hyssop appears many times in the Bible. I'm not going to read all this, but you see there's hyssop, 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 more hyssop. Lots of hyssops are mentioned in the Bible. The branch that was used to put the sponge on that was put at Christ's lips was a hyssop stem. So the law of Moses required that they use this plant where they could not observe the law of Moses. Now, the plant types are strongly influenced by climate, and climate is strongly influenced by latitude, as I just said. And northern Florida is at just the right latitude where that plant would grow. But the plant does not grow in the United States of America. It is native to the Holy Land. And so when Lehi got here, he didn't bring any seeds of hyssop, or if he had, those plants didn't survive because hyssop is not found growing naturally in the United States or in Mesoamerica. It is confined to the middle part to the Middle East. Now here is a plant called Spotted Bee Balm, a picture taken from a distance. And some of you may be familiar. There's an algorithm or an app you can download for free. It's called Google Lens. So it's Google and then Lens, like a camera lens. Google Lens, and you can point it at anything and it'll classify it for you. So I decided for the grins, I took this picture and put it in Google Lens, and this is the program, Google Lens, and I took a picture and I submitted it to Google Lens, and Google Lens uses artificial intelligence to classify, and it goes through literally millions and millions of pictures to identify what it's looking at. I've pointed it at my vacuum cleaner. It told me the model, make, the serial number, about everything on it. I pointed at my electric range. You can point it at anything, but you can point it at plants, and it'll tell you all about the plants. It gets most of them right. So I pointed at that plant. Here I am pointing at the plant, and guess what it said it is? Look down here. I've got the word circled, hyssop. So an artificial intelligence classifier looked at millions of pictures and said that plant is hyssop. What do you think Lehi thought when he got off the boat and saw that plant? If AI called it hyssop, I'm sure Lehi looked at it and thought, that is just a dead ringer for hyssop. And I think that they used this plant as a substitute for their Feast of the Passover. Now, the plant is actually very beautiful. I've got it growing in my backyard. And this is what it looks like. It has also a pink version of the blooms, and it is a mint. And I'll teach you in a little bit later some things you need to know. I'll zoom in on that bloom to give you a little more detail. It attracts native butterflies and native bees because it's a native plant only found in North America. There are 9 different subspecies of the plant. The plant that grows on the temple site that I'll talk about in a minute is the one you see in this picture. So here's now, one of the things you're going to think is these pink things are the blooms. They're not. Those are called bracts. They're the same thing as on the end of a strawberry. The green thing on the end of a strawberry is a bract. It's a modified leaf that subtends the bloom. So here are the bracts you see in white, and right above it are the blossoms, the yellow. And if you zoom in on those, you'll see polka dots all over. And that's why they call it Spotted Bee Balm. So here's the blossoms. Here are the little seed capsules. There's about 4 seeds in each of these little capsules. And the seeds do not start forming until this blossom has been pollinated. And once it's been pollinated, the blossom dries up and the seed begins to develop. And if you harvest this plant to make medicine before the seeds begin developing, it will have very little medicinal value. So you've got to wait until the blossoms start falling off. Okay, now let's look. The people that we believe were the Nephites living here in America are called by scientists today, they're called the Hopewell. And the Jaredites are called the Adena. And so we've got all kinds of archaeological evidence that supports that the Nephites and the Jaredites were here in America. And we actually have a Facebook page that presents a lot of the evidence. And I'll give you the link to that at the end, tell you how to get on if you want. But the red dots represent a small section of the Hopewell mounds that have been found in what we call the heartland of the United States. Also, the Book of Mormon refers to it as the Promised Land. And there were over 1 million mounds, they believe, before they began to eradicate them. Our own government decided to try to destroy as many of them as possible. So many of them have been destroyed. But these are the ones that, at the time, in 1894, were still in existence. So what I want to show you is that I've gone in and put some dots or stars in places where we found the spotted bee balm growing. Now, it grows in many places. It grows along the Mississippi tributaries and the river. But it is almost always associated with Nephites. So if I go in and I plot every county in the state of Missouri that has spotted bee balm growing in it, this map on the bottom shows where those counties are. That's as detailed as the state biologist will give you, because they don't want people going in and harvesting the plants. So they'll just give you the county. But the red things are the counties that have spotted bee balm growing in them. Above are all the Hopewell or the Nephite colonies, and you can see you can drop arrows down and you hit right in those counties. The Nephites, this is called aerial correspondence analysis. I taught geospatial statistics as a professor, and this is the technique we use to look at the relationship between features in one map versus another. And the correlation here would be very strong. So what this suggests to us is that the Nephites were cultivating the plant. It wasn't just growing like a weed. This plant has very, very small seeds. It's not carried by the wind. It's not carried by the fur of animals. It's not carried by a pappus like a dandelion that floats away like it's got a little parachute on it. It's not carried by a whirling wing, such as the maple that has a samara type of bloom. It falls on the ground and it pretty much germinates where it lands if it lands in a desirable location. And that location is very, very picky. And I've given out over 1 million seeds in the last 3 years to this plant. And many people fail to get it to grow the first try or two. And that's because they usually don't listen to me when I tell them what not to do. But I'll talk to you a little more about that in a bit. Now, if you want to grow it, we do have seeds, and we'll Karen's on here.
Mm-hmm.
Karen's daughter. I'll give you the email address for getting a hold of Julianne, and you can email Julianne, and she'll send you any of these products you want. Again, the goal here is not to try to sell the products, but to make them available. We do try to recover our costs on them. But you can see I've done up here what I'm going to tell you not to do. And that is, don't try to grow this in these little teeny 1-inch or 2-inch pots, because what will happen is that most of you don't love plants like I love plants. I love plants more than you can imagine. Okay. So when I plant these things, I'm checking on them 3 times a day. Most people forget and don't check on them for a week. And when they come back and check, they're dead because these little pots dry out very quickly. I encourage you to plant them in a big pot, a pot that's big enough you can't put your arms around it. And what I would encourage you to do is make a mix of topsoil, manure compost, clay box sand, and coconut coir. And I put down some percentages. Notice I said topsoil. I didn't say potting soil. Potting soil is misnomer. Potting soil is not soil, it's dirt. Dirt is dead. Topsoil has living organisms in it that help bring forth the micronutrients that plants need to make them fertile and make them very powerful medicinally. So I go to Home Depot and I buy a $4 bag of topsoil. I buy a $5 bag of composted cow manure. I go over into the area where they have their gravel and I buy a bag of clay box sand. The reason I buy that is because it's coarse. Because kids when you put the sand in the sandbox, you don't want them getting it all over in their eyes. So the coarser sand doesn't stick to them as badly. And then if you can go to Petco, or you can order online, coconut quartz, ground up coconut husks. And it's really good at holding moisture in your plants. Now I have this, I'll give you my email address and I can send you all this. So don't worry about anything I'm talking about. We can get it afterwards. Just pop me an email. I'm not harvesting emails either, but I want to tell you something about the area that we said that Zarahemla is located. Zarahemla is located right across the river from Nauvoo. We've collected magnetometer data, we've collected LIDAR data, we've collected ground penetrating radar data, we've collected electroresistivity data, we've collected electroconductivity data. We found the temple site. I do a paper on it showing the scientific evidence is proving that it's there, but I'm not going to be able to cover that in this talk. But these are Nephite mounds. Often they're places where people have been buried. There were battles that took place over by Nauvoo where there are nearly 20,000 warriors killed in about maybe 2 hours. And how do we know how much time? Because you can only swing a battle axe for a few hours before your arms are ready to fall off. So this is a mound that's very close to the Zarahemla temple site. This is called the Little Mound Cemetery. We flew it with a drone and I built a 3-dimensional model of it. We didn't get some coverage here where it's gray, but to give you an idea how big that mound is, right down here are 2 SUVs parked at the foot of the mound. that mound has Jaredites on the bottom, Nephites in the middle, and Europeans on top. This is the temple site, and that rectangle there is where the temple is located. This berm right here is covered with spotted bee balm. And we were there having sacrament meeting in 2021. Wayne May drove down from Wisconsin to meet me with my sister-in-laws and my wife to give us a tour. And he said, there's no church being held because of COVID. Let's go over to the temple site and have sacrament meeting. So we went over to the temple site, and we went and we drove right over here, the little dirt path right here. We drove over and parked our cars right here at this end, and we had our sacrament meeting. And after that meeting was over, Wayne turned to me and said, "Kevin, what is this plant that's growing all over this berm? I've never seen it here before." And I was the international plant judging coach for BYU. And I said, "Wayne, I have never seen that plant before either. I don't know what it is." I keyed it out. I said, "Wayne, it's a mint," because I saw it had square stems and opposite leaves. I said, "and if it's aromatic, it's probably medicinal." So I smelled it and I said, "It's medicinal." I called my brother-in-law, who's I'm trying to get through here as quick as possible, because you're going to really like his talk. And I called him, and he flew from Nephi. He'd gotten the plane, flew out of Salt Lake, and flew from Nephi to Quincy, Illinois. I picked him up, drove him back to this site, brought him out here. He took one whiff of that plant. He said, "This plant is highly medicinal." So this is the berm. Look at how it's growing on that berm. It likes sandy soils. Here's a close-up of the bloom of it. So we went in. Wayne, this is Wayne May. I was taking pictures of the plants to document, get a photo documentation of the plants on the site. And Wayne said, "Get a picture of me laying in the spotted bee balm." So I took a picture of him. This is a close-up. It can be pink. It can be greenish color, kind of a cream color, 3 or 4 different colors. So we went to work and we harvested 13 pounds of the plant material. And it's an interesting story. Dana trying to fly that back to Utah. They weren't going to let him put it on the plane until they asked, "Would this cure COVID?" And Dana said, "It might." They put that box on the seat right next to Dana in the plane. So, Dana, this is a picture Dana took. This is the essential oil from the plant. Now, I'm not going to say much about this because Dana, I'm sure, will say something if he doesn't. And down below is what they call the hydrosol, which is the liquid part. So that is the oils that Dana took to one of the leading testing laboratories in the world and had them test it to see what it was and how good it was. I'll just tell you, they said it's one of the most powerful medicinal plants they've ever tested. Now, the big mistake people make when they get the plant is they think, "I'll dry it and make a tea out of it." The plant is covered with these little spikes. They're called trichomes. And on the tip of them is where the essential oil is formed. And if you pick the plant and let it sit very long, guess what evaporates? All of that essential oil just disappears. It volatilizes and it's gone. So if you dry it to make tea, you don't have the medicinal components of the plant because they've dried up and gone into the air. What if you bring it into the house and wash it in the sink before you make a tincture out of it? Guess what just went down the drain? But I was growing the plant next to my Swiss chard in my garden. I mean, they were touching one another. And this is what my Swiss chard looked like after the insects in Kansas decided to eat it alive. And this is what the spotted bee balm looked like. Guess what they didn't like? This plant, when it's producing seed, it produces compounds that are repulsive to insects. And that happens to be very medicinal to us humans. Now, Dana took it to the laboratory and they tested it in an instrument that cost about $150,000. It's called a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer, and it tells you every chemical compound in the test sample that you put in the machine. And This just shows a quick list of the top 10, but there are 56 compounds, and I'm going to leave that up to Dana to talk about. Now I'm going to fly through these real quick. What we found when we started doing searches in the scientific literature, the compound, let me go back, it's carvacrol, thymol, multiple other important compounds, but the effects of carvacrol and thymol and essential oils contain such monoterpenoids or monoterpenes on wound healing, and so it's a very powerful antibiotic. It also, here the paper that says it's a very Monarda punctata, which is the scientific name of spotted bee balm, is a powerful antibiotic, and it says it's the carvacrol, the limonene, the thymol or thymol, those components are in it, and it's killing very antibiotic resistant. See, there's MRSA, other streptococcus, that's killing those as an antibiotic. The EPA came out and said thymol can be used to clean the surfaces of your house to kill COVID. And here's another paper. The EPA approves the killing thymol to kill COVID. And then here, thymol is used to kill malaria. And the biggest killer of members of the church in Nauvoo was malaria. Here's what killed the members of our church at the time of Joseph Smith. It killed 175 members in Nauvoo. And so there's diarrhea, tuberculosis, and so on, but malaria was the biggest killer. And guess what was killing or causing fevers in the Nephites across the river in Zarahemla? Malaria. Everything in red is where they reported people dying from malaria in the United States in 1870. Oh, and guess what? Nauvoo, the land of Zarahemla, is right in that circular area. It's used here, it says to treat malaria. And here, this is a paper that is published by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those names look like American names. Why are the Chinese studying this plant? It doesn't grow in China. You never create an antibiotic resistant biological weapon unless you have a cure for it. And notice what they're studying, Monarda punctata, which is spotted bee balm. And they're using it to test it against MRSA and other antibiotic resistant bacteria. Oops, I had to use a different set of slides, Dana. Did you put this one in your slide set, Dana? I don't know if he's there.
No, I did not.
Okay, then I'll just quickly say something here. This woman cut her thumb a year earlier. She'd never been able to get it to heal. She started using the salve. That was made from spotted bee balm, and within a week, that's what her thumb looked like. This young man was an LDS man living near the Nauvoo area. He had MRSA, and you can see how inflamed it is. His mother came to Dana and asked him if she could get some essential oils of the spotted bee balm. She started treating his MRSA, and this is about 10 days later, and it killed the MRSA in his leg. This woman was cleaning her house after a flood down in Louisiana after a hurricane. She'd had this infection on her hand for years. She couldn't even close her fingers. They would bleed, crack. She used the hydrosol made from the spotted bee balm, and in 7 days, that's what her hand looked like. So here we are, we're collecting the plant. It's all hand collected. We don't have big fields of it growing. We just have to go out and collect it in the wild. The Native Americans came in and actually blessed the site and were helping us harvest the seeds. The seeds are extremely small. They're about 1 millimeter in size. And again, I wouldn't grow it this way. I'd grow it in a big pot, but you can see we've got it growing. The seeds are very viable if you plant them right. If you cover them with any soil, the plants will not germinate. The seeds won't germinate. They have to have sunlight on them to germinate. People say, what will it heal? Well, Dr. Burge, some of you probably have listened to Dr. Burge. He gives the 14 amazing benefits of oregano oil. Oregano is closely related to spotted bee balm, except spotted bee balm is much more powerful medicinally. And here he says it's an antibiotic, an antifungal, antiviral, antiparasitic, antioxidant, antiseptic, and so on. You can go down the list here. But it's the wild oregano, not the cultivated oregano. And so here's the plants and some salves and stuff we make and tinctures that we make and salves and packages of seeds. And we grow seedlings. People sometimes want us to send them seedlings. It's better if you just try to get them growing in your own house or outside when it's the temperatures are right. This plants, people say, will it grow in my yard? Well, I've had it growing in my backyard in 1-gallon black pots sitting on the concrete of my patio, and I measured the surface of the concrete temperature. It was 138 degrees, and it was thriving. The plant was smiling. That winter, I didn't get it planted because I have a bad hip and I couldn't get bent down. I thought I'm going to experiment with it and see if it'll survive the winter in those black pots. At Christmas time for 3 days, I've got I can't take this drive out because that's what I'm using right now to make the presentation. It was 31 below zero and the plant wasn't even frozen yet. It was still green. So the plant will grow in very extreme temperatures. Dana's product that he'll talk about here is Airtime. We also have a magazine that you may be interested in. If you want it, you can find it on Wayne May's site. It talks about all the archaeological evidences here in North America supporting the Book of Mormon geography here in North America. And the site is ldsarchaeology.com. And I had on the slides that I had on my other computer, I had the website. I'll give you the website orally. It is Rock the World Botanicals at gmail.com. Rock the World Botanicals at gmail.com. Did I get that right, Karen?
Yes. Can you tell them that the website, as soon as the end of the month, when this money comes in, the website's going to go up and they can just go to the website?
You just told them.
Yeah, the website will be up and you can just order straight from the website.
All right.
Thank you.
I think, and this is Wayne's website, and you see there's the magazine, and you can go in and get all kinds of books and things like that if you're interested in it. Okay, that's my part. I hope I didn't take too long. I know I did because I was forever getting started, but anyway, I'm going to shut down and let Dana take over.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lee, for having me on tonight. I appreciate it. As Kevin, we are very passionate about the Spotted Bee Balm and what that represents. And we firmly believe that this was reserved to come forth at this time for a very special purpose. And so I'm just going to share a few things with you here real quick, and then we'll get into some of the reasons why I am so passionate about this plant. So I want to do a little bit of background, go back to what Kevin alluded to there as he talked about the saints dying from malaria and whatnot. There is a lot of powerful information that we've kind of glossed over in I believe as a membership of the church. And I just kind of wanted to bring this forward because there's a group of people like you that we're preaching to the choir here that are really connected to nature and connected to the earth. And one of the things that I've been teaching for the past 25 years is the further away from nature you get, the more disease will happen to the body. And the closer we come to nature, the fewer disease challenges will happen. And what does disease mean? If we just look at this word right here, disease, if we break it down, dis-ease, the body is out of harmony. And so the further we get away from nature, the more disease or disharmony we'll find. And when we return to nature, we see that the body starts to come back to that balance, that homeostasis of health. And that's what's so important here. So let's understand a few things that Joseph taught. It's just amazing. It has been said that there was a Missouri minister that visited Nauvoo and made a very candid observation. He said, I can't find any trace of any medical doctors because that Mormon leader does not allow him here. And that was so one-sided. But here's what's funny, that minister himself stayed with a family on the other side of the river who employed a medical doctor. And this is recorded in Joseph's journal, dated September 5th, 1841. The prophet Joseph also preached to a large congregation at the stand. And this is what he said. This is found in the History of the Church, volume 4, page 414. On science and the practice of medicine, desiring to persuade the saints to trust in God when sick and not to rely on the arm of the flesh, and to live by faith and not by medicine or poison. And when they are sick, they should call for the elders to pray for them and administer to them, and then to use herbs and mild food. Kind of interesting. Joseph and folk medicine. He was a devout, came from a devout Christian family, and they did, however, call upon doctors in medical emergencies. I mean, guys, just to be flat transparent with you, if I am in a car wreck and I have bone sticking out of my leg, I'm not going to rub Spotted Bee Balm on that. I'm going to seek out a medical doctor, because they are amazing emergency care. For healthcare, they have no clue. That's just my opinion. Emergency care, that's where it's all at. But healthcare, they get half an hour of training, or half a credit of training in nutrition in their 11 years of studying. So they're emergency care, not healthcare. And so when you look at this, they did call upon the doctors, and they also turned to prayer in times of dire needs. 3 emergencies became very evident milestone in the Smith family. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But yeah, it's really important that we understand that. And Joseph said the following, because and sometimes we see that even today. It is not lawful to teach the church that all disease is of the devil. But if there is any that have this faith, let them have it to himself. If there are any that believe that roots and herbs administer to the sick, and all wholesome vegetables which God has ordained for the use of man, and if any say such a thing applied to the sick in order that they may receive health, and this applied to by any member of the church, if there are any among you that teach that these things are of Satan, such teachings is not of God. And you can't believe the number of LDS people here in Utah that really have that attitude. So here's the thing, guys, it's not one or the other. Latter-day Saints believe in applying the best available science, knowledge, and techniques. We use nutrition, exercise, and other practices to preserve health. And we enlist the help of healing practitioners, such as physicians and surgeons, to restore health. The use of medical science is not at odds with our prayer of faith and our reliance on the priesthood blessing. Dallin H. Oak, April 2010. So we don't want to avoid and hold off using the professional people. If you need an X-ray or if you need an MRI, those are medical advances that has happened, so that we have that opportunity to see deeper into things that we don't know about. But it's really important to realize that Joseph was very, very plain about the priesthood and the healing and whatnot. So we don't need to be one or the other. We need to use them simultaneously. This article in the Liahona in May 2010, it's really powerful to read that entire article. And when you stop and think about it, if there's anything virtuous, lovely, or good report or praiseworthy, we seek after these things. And so, it's really important to kind of balance that. But here's what I found so amazing. Dr. Willard Richards was trained as a doctor of herbal medicines and cultivated an air of respectability and refinement appropriate for that profession. Church leaders and Relief Society would send women to study medicine and finance their studies. Romania Pratt became the first LDS Latter-day Saint woman to graduate from medical school in 1877. So, it's a good balance, and that's what we need. And so I love this. I love DNC 42, 43. And whosoever among you are sick and have not the faith to be healed, but believe shall be nourished with all tenderness, with herbs, mild food, and that's not by the hand of the enemy. So pretty powerful here. Well, I'm sure when Joseph was translating the Book of Mormon, he came across that scripture in Alma that Kevin talked about. I bet it raised his eyebrows quite a bit and made him really think about the things that was going on at the time with the saints. And here's a close-up picture of that berm that Kevin was talking about on the temple site. It is growing abundantly on this berm. And that's where we did the first harvest in 2020. I brought it back and had it tested so we could find out what we have here. I knew it was amazing, but I didn't. And I knew that it was going to be high in carvacrol and thymol just from smelling it, but I didn't realize how high it was going to be. So when we did this chemical analysis at the independent lab, it revealed 56 compounds, and the top compound was carvacrol, comprising over 60% of the oil, was that workhorse protecting human health. And here's what's awesome about this. When not in isolation and in its pure form, multiple chemical compounds within essential oils have synergistic effects in killing bacteria, viruses, and fungi. And that's the problem that we find in medicine. You look at let's take Nexium, the purple pill. It was designed to do what? Stop heartburn. And so you look at that and you go, wow, let's look at the side effects. And you have 16 pages of side effects. I mean, it's crazy. And one of the side effects is actually death. But when you look at essential oils, it's totally different. You don't have 16 pages of side effects. The challenge that I had when I first came into essential oils 25 years ago was I didn't know which one I should use because I found that one worked really great for this person, but another worked better for that person. And the variable with using herbs or essential oils is the human body. Not every body is exactly the same. It has different challenges. And so you might have pain in your shoulder, for example, and we could grab birch or peppermint or something like that. And for one person, the pain goes away. Well, if you use peppermint on a shoulder that has pain in it, peppermint targets bone. Peppermint targets inflammation. And so it would, if that person had inflammation in their shoulder, it would lessen the inflammation, the pain would go away. If there was something wrong with the bone and you put peppermint on, you're not going to have a reduction of pain. It'll stay the same. And so people say, oh, these herbs, these essential oils don't work. It's just that we don't understand what their chemical constituents are and what the target is. And that's where people kind of get sideways with that. So with that little introduction there, just to kind of give you a little idea who I am, 25 years in the essential oil world. I came into it kicking and screaming. I wanted nothing to do with it because I'd spent 7 years starting down the road of pre-med, and there was a challenge with my wife and a doctor, and so I kind of left that area and started studying alternative really heavily because they had no answers for me. And it took 4 years to get her back into the health that we enjoyed prior to the accident that had happened. And so I managed a 1,000-acre essential oil farm. Well, actually, it was a 1,000-acre farm here in Utah. It was not an essential oil farm. It was a beef operation. I built the very first essential oil distillery in the state of Utah. I was the first person to plant and distill German chamomile in the state of Utah. I planted to distill clary sage and then took it to Turkey, to Izmir, Turkey, to Dr. Bashard at Ege University to have it tested. And it was the purest clary sage that he had tested in 20 years with the highest amount of carvacom. And so it was pretty amazing. Over the past 25 years, I've created 12 top-selling essential oil blends that have just been really amazing and do the job that they should do. So why essential oils? Essential oils are a very complex mixture of volatile compounds, particularly abundant in aromatic plants. And they mainly are composed of terpenes that biogenerated by the malevolate pathway. These volatile molecules include monoterpenes, hydrocarbons, oxalates, monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes. There's just tons and tons of compounds in there, anywhere from 0 to 2,000 different compounds, depending on which oil that you're looking at. And they're now discovering new compounds that they didn't know about several years ago. And some of the actions you have from these compounds, just crazy large, numerous biological activities, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial. There's a great interest in food and chemistry industries to use them for flavoring and preservatives. It's really quite amazing. So why Spotted Bee Balm? Kevin did a very excellent job, and of course he would, as the specialist that he is on describing the Spotted Bee Balm. But it's clearly a cultivated plant, and as he demonstrated, it follows closely the Hopewell or the Nephite culture, has medical compounds used within the indigenous tribes, even still today. In my research studying the indigenous tribes around the Great Lake region, there's 40 different tribes that still use this in their medical folklore today. It's a great value and part of the mint family, as Kevin talked about. So let's take a look at where Spotted Bee Balm lands when we start looking at all the different compounds that you'll find here. And over this direction, you're going to have the hydrophilic, lipophilic. It's going to be your anti-inflammatory, relaxing, cooling. Look at where it lands. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? It is such a powerful. When you get down into these compounds right here, according to Alta Loma University, no known virus can live in the presence of these compounds right here. And Spotted Bee Balm is loaded with those compounds. So here's a cool little thing that you'll see. It's kind of awesome. This is a controlled study they did. The time of kill curve. So this is the time of kill. So this is the percentage of infestation, if you want to put it that way. And this is distance to see how long it takes to kill. And so if you take a look at this, here's your control. This is the control. And then here is your standardized medicines. And then the yellow is going to be your Monarda punctata. And look at that. Within 12 hours, 100% kill. And this here kill was on Staphylococcus bacteria strain. 100% kill in, well, probably about 10 hours, actually. That's pretty impressive. Now, here's one thing that I found as I started talking about the purple pill. Let me go back and just say this again to finish that off. What I have found is whenever the scientists come in and they isolate a compound, it now becomes toxic to the human frame. When it's in its complete plant form, it's not toxic, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. But when it's isolated, it now becomes toxic. And that's why you see 16 pages of side effects and even death with the purple pill. Here's some more. Here's your essential oils. And this is what's so cool about this when you start looking at it. These are the different bacteria up here. Methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, Staphylococcus. This one right here is the one that's responsible for stomach ulcers and stomach cancers, E. coli. Look at the kind of control you get with streptomycin. Barely. How about vancomycin? Now, vancomycin was the strongest antibiotic that they put out about 4 years ago. And you can see it's not, and this one here, if you take a 10-day regimen of that, you'll probably wind up having hearing aids afterwards, because this takes out the cilia and the cochlea and you lose your hearing. But look with essential oils, look at the powerful control. There's just no comparison. I mean, if you were sick, would you want to play with this or would you want to play with this? It's pretty easy to make that determination. So, here's some research here that I'm glad that Lee is recording this, so you can go back in and read this and see. But this is amazing. In 12 hours with just essential oil treatment, it's absolutely amazing. Just look at the difference here. You got your A, B, C, D, and look at how it just starts knocking it right out within that short period of time. Within 12 hours, we go from here to here. You can see apoptosis, cell death. It's just absolutely amazing. Here's another study, scientifically outperforms 3 of the isolated compounds. Here's a compound we find in Spotted Bee Balm. Here's another compound. Here's another compound. And then there's Monarda punctata, Spotted Bee Balm, in its complete form, not in isolation. These are These are isolated compounds from Spotted Bee Balm. And the way you isolate a compound is in the distillation process. Each compound comes out at a different time. And so you can actually isolate that compound and have an isolation. And here's thymol that is powerful, but when it's in complete form, unadulterated form, look at the control you have. So that's pretty amazing. So let me just, let's see, is that one? Okay, yeah, let's just go ahead and go past this. A lot of research, guys, a lot of research in here and how it will outperform drugs, pharmaceuticals. It's just amazing. So when I saw the Spotted Bee Balm out there on the temple site, my first big concern, I knew there was something amazing here, but my first big concern was this: there's not enough growing in where it can be harvested quickly, because you have a window of harvest. It's like a bale. You come up the top of that bale, and once you approach the top, as it goes over the bale and starts down the other side, once it starts down the other side, now we start losing compounds. So to hit the peak, you have a short window of the best time to harvest. Well, if we don't have a huge field to go in and harvest it and distill it right then, if we're running around to the Hopewell sites to harvest little patches, we're not going to be able to acquire enough raw matter to get enough oil to help the people within the church and outside the church that we want to help. So that was my first concern. So I thought, if there's a way that we could take and create a blend with the essential oils to enhance what Spotted Bee Balm has, that would be amazing. And so that's the whole purpose of creating a blend, is to give you something greater than the sum of the individual parts. It's known as a synergy. And so to help you understand that, you just take a look at copper, zinc, and tin. Copper is is a very soft, malleable metal. Tin and aluminum are considered some of the weakest metals found on Earth. But if you blend copper and zinc, it yields brass. And if you blend copper and tin, it yields bronze. And if you put steel with zinc, it galvanizes it and helps stop the rust. So by putting it together, you get a synergy that is greater than some of the individual parts. Well, when it comes to blending essential oils, 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. It can be 3 or 4 or 5. It can be much greater than combining of the individual parts. And so when we look at what I tried to create here, and guys, it took me a year making a blend, sending it in, and having it tested, because the last thing I want to do is change what Spotted Bee Balm is. I just wanted to volumize it and enhance it so that we can get it to more people because of, well, you saw the pictures that Kevin was showing. Ben Seaman, they told him that he was probably within a few days of possibly having to amputate his leg with that MRSA. And so we want to make sure that this gets out to everyone. So if you take a look at Spotted Bee Balm, 56 compounds. I wanted to blend with that thyme. Now, the reason why I wanted to blend thyme with it is because the Spotted Bee Balm and the temple site was very, very high in the carvacrol, but was low in the thymol. And so I wanted to use the thyme to get the thymol up higher, but it has 129 compounds, a lot more than Spotted Bee Balm. Frankincense Sharada, 100 compounds. Karuba, 96 compounds. Eucalyptus globulus, 29 compounds. Copaiba, 113 compounds. And Ravensara, 120 compounds. So if you take a look at that, was over 600 compounds. Now, granted, some of these are going to be the same compounds, but, collectively over 600 compounds. Well, that's no longer Spotted Bee Balm. And so when you're blending, there's kind of this is how I blend. A lot of people they'll blend by a high note, a low note, and a middle note. Well, that's blending for perfumery. It's not blending for therapeutic acquisition. And so the first thing that I look at when I'm blending is the target. What is the target that I'm after? I wanted to enhance Spotted Bee Balm. I wanted to enhance these 56 compounds. And so for a solid year, I do a blend, send it in, pay my fee of $200 and come back, and it was not Spotted Bee Balm enhanced. It was something else. So I had to break it down and start looking at the major compounds, carvacrol, mycene, just the different compounds, the primary compound, the secondary compounds. What oil would I need to add to that to ramp the action of the major and the primary and the secondary? Then I need a supporting action that would help support the human body. We're not supporting the oils here. We want to support the human body. And then we need to have a unifier. There are certain essential oils that when you add them to the blend, it makes it as one. It unifies all of the oils into one. And so I finally got to the point where I said to my wife, I said, I just don't think I can do this. It's being very expensive to create this blend, and it's not happening. These compounds are clear up in this range, way up there. And I said, it's no longer Spotted Bee Balm. I think I just had a romantic idea, and it just can't be done. And next, my wife said, well, try it one more time. It's okay. So the next morning, it was so amazing. The next morning, I just turned it over to Heavenly Father. And the next morning, I had this formula right here. These oils came into my mind right here. And so I came into the lab and I started putting them together. I had studied them for a long time anyway, so I knew their compounds, and so I started putting it together and I sent it in, and it was absolutely amazing. These are the actions that I want to enhance. The antibacterial stops and slows down the growth of bacteria, antiseptic, slows down, stops microorganism, carminative effect, gastrointestinal tract problems, abnormal sweating, diuretic, redness to the skin, stimulant. These are the things I wanted to enhance. And so as I went through that, as you can see how the red thyme that I use, the chemotype thymol, look at some of the improvements you have there. But let's just bust through this. here's why it's so powerful. Thymol actually takes and stops viruses from being able to go through the cell membrane and get inside the body. And once that virus gets in there, it replicates the DNA of the cell, and then you're in trouble. But Thymol stops that. So these were the actions that I wanted to actually, and Kevin talked about the SARS-CoV-2. That's what I wanted to get away from, is those things. So let me just, probably what I need to do now is, I'm going to change PowerPoints. I have multiple PowerPoints. And this one here, I think I'll go over to the next one because it will now give us, there we are. It'll give us what we need to finish up with. Okay, share. Okay. So now that we've gone through this, Monarda punctata, the foundation for xerotyme. So we go through this. We've been through that already. And Kevin talked very eloquently about how it's connected to the mint family and all the different things that the mint family. I mean, this is pretty impressive when you stop and look at the different things it'll do. And there's Spotted Bee Balm right in there. It's just absolutely amazing. Now, this was a wild crafting of the Spotted Bee Balm a year ago. And you can see just growing wild. And here's Kevin here. It's Kevin and his sister, my wife, Cammie. So we'd go through and we would cut it, and then they would rake it together into a pile. It's just different pictures there at the temple site, the Spotted Bee Balm. And you can just see it growing all the way up here. It's absolutely phenomenal. This here is just different patches. This one right here is absolutely amazing, because one of the things that some of the detractors that have been saying, oh, you guys are destroying it because it doesn't grow back when you harvest it. You can see two different heights here. This here was not on the temple site. It was right next to the temple site on a greenhouse farm. And he had gone through and mowed this down in June. And by August, it had grown back and bloomed. And so the harvesting that we were doing is not destroying the patches at all. And just, you can see where it's cut off there. There's enough plant left that it just grows right back. It's kind of cool. So you can see here, this is Ann Baker. She came from Utah to help us harvest. And it's how we harvest it, just like that. You see, we always leave some. We don't take it all. And then we load the trucks and we'd haul it to the distillery. These are distilleries that I built, mobile distilleries. They're both 30-gallon distilleries. There's Kevin loading it. That's myself helping load it. This is Ann's husband, Phil. So we load down below here is the water, or what they call the torch chamber, where the water comes to a boil. This here grate here holds the Monarda punctata from going into the water. So we just get good dry steam coming up through the plant. And so once it's full, we put the lid on there. And this here is going to be our swan neck going over to our condenser. So we have cold water coming in the bottom. I did this in reverse, and it worked out really well. Cold water comes in the top. So as soon as that steam coming over here with the steam and the vaporized essential oil hits that cold water first, it shocks it and drops it back into solution, and then the hot water comes out here. And once it goes through the condenser, then I collected it here and put it into the separator. And the separator here's the separator, good picture of the separator there. I think I got it close up. Yeah, there's a separator. So it comes in here and flows into this separator, and the oil floats to the top. And the hydrolate, or the floral water, or the hydrosol will come out this pipe here, and you can see it coming out here. And the first couple of years that we did this, I collected the floral water. Most of it I just let ran out on the ground. And the first year I hung on to a gallon of it and took it home. And I just had a feeling to take it home. And the next year we kept every drop of this. And this year when we harvested in Michigan, we kept everything again also. But this is essential oil. And you can kind of see I was just dropping in there, filling up. And then what I do is I take and open up this valve right here and plug this off, and the floral water comes back up and pushes the oil up, and it drains out here into this container. So we were getting about 200 to 250 mil every distillation. So just to kind of help you understand the power of concentration, this is where some people kind of get lost when they come into essential oils. It takes a huge amount of crop matter to get a drop of essential oils. You're looking at, peppermint, it takes about 150 pounds to get 1 pound of oil. Basil, it takes about 90 pounds of basil leaf to get 1 pound of oil. Rose oil, it takes 6,000 rose petals to get 1 pound of oil. So you can kind of see that it's a power of concentration. Huge amount of mass to get a small amount of oil. But it is power punched. It's 1,000 times stronger and more powerful than the herb itself, especially if it's a dehydrated herb. If it's not an essential oil producing plant, then it's not so bad. But if it is, you lose 99% of the power, the medicinal power, when you dehydrate an essential oil plant. So, and again, here's the hydrosol being collected here. All right. So here we go. I want you to try and take a look at this. We've about got this rounded up here. Carvacrol, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, respiratory problems, kills bacteria. Now this one here we're going to spend some time with, and this one here we'll spend some time with at the end. But look at this. Liver protective, anti-cancer, brain restorative. When I sent this in, the lab technician that did the testing, he called me up and he said, Dana, he said, this is the most powerful essential oil that I have ever tested. He says, in this compound, thymol hydrochloroquinone, he says, you need to look into that. He says, I have not seen it this high in a plant ever. It's in like about 100 different plants. They said, this is super high. You need to look into that. And so I've been studying that ever since he told me that. So we're going to spend some time with that tonight. And then this paracymene prevents coughs and eliminates phlegm. Gamma terpenes, anxiety, insomnia, inflammation. Alpha terpenes, potential cancer treatment, antioxidant. Alpha-theogen, skin disease, chronic airway disease, mycin, diabetes, diarrhea, dysentery, hypertension. That's just those compounds, and there's 56 compounds. These are just the ones I wanted to highlight right now. So if you look at the temple site, this just to give you an idea of the different places. We have the largest database of spotted bee balm of different locations of anyone in America today. So Carvacrol temple site was 66.58 thymol. You can see it was lower than I wanted it. The thymol hydrochloroquine 17. You can see the percentages there. So this was the temple site in 2021. Florida sample, 60 compounds. Look at the Carvacrol, way down there, 3. Big difference from the temple site. But the thymol was super high. And look at this compound, it was actually higher too. So there's different compounds. Then we go to temple site the next year, and it's 67, so it was a little higher. And this one here was also higher. So it does fluctuate with the year, depending on the water and sun and humidity and everything. The Michigan sample, the Carvacrol was a little bit low, but look at the thymol hydrochloroquine. It was way up there. And then we come to the Utah sample. Look at how high it is here. Absolutely phenomenal. So you can kind of get an idea. There's a second Utah sample. It was a little lower on that. And what's funny, this was raised by father and daughter, and they lived about 2 blocks from each other, and big difference. So, essential oils, hydrosol, infusion, which to choose and how to use. So we talked about the blend and the complexity of that, so we can go past that. But now, this is what I wanted to see, this GCMS analysis. This here is the actual Spotted Bee Balm, Monarda punctata. Right there, you can see Monarda punctata, Spotted Bee Balm. And this was the first test with the 60 compounds. And then this here is the Xerotime, is what we call the blend. After it was blended, and it came out because we used the one that had 56 compounds. This came out 60 compounds, the Xerotime. But look at all of the enhancements here. You know, this in here, this is the carbachol, just off the chart. Well, it's still off the chart, but look how everything was enhanced. And the only thing, it added 4 compounds. So we went from 56 compounds to 60 compounds. This was the second year testing. But look at the difference here. See, there's no compound here, but you'll find it there. There's no compound out here. There it is there. Okay, so what happened? These compounds here came from the copaiba. What the copaiba oil does is it activates the CBD receptor sites in your body. So now, instead of taking and using CBD oil that has the potential of being a hallucinogen, because not all of them are done right. In fact, Kevin shared with me a study that there's quite a bit of it out there that's actually garbage. This here activates the CBD receptor sites in your body. So that's pretty powerful. So this chart here help you kind of understand control. The control is the original temple site, okay? And then the next year temple site, and then Florida, Michigan, Utah 1, Utah 2, and then the Xerotime is yellow. So if you take a look at that, you can see that other than the Utah carbachol was higher than the Xerotime, it actually came down a little bit, but everything else was just Xerotime outperformed those compounds. And then here is your transnerdol. This one here actually repairs nerve damage, that compound. This compound here causes tissue regeneration for cuts and wounds. And the cineol 1,8 is your super strong antibacterial property that we have there. So just to help you kind of see distillation.
Steam distillation works. Most essential oils are produced by steam distillation. Steam distillation was invented around 1000 AD by Persian alchemist and healer Avicenna. It has been practiced for thousands of years since then, and is still one of the best ways to take freshly harvested or dried plants and extract pure essential oil. Take a look at this distilling apparatus. The bottom reservoir is filled with distilled water. Above is an alembic chamber that holds the plant material, often called biomass. The biomass is full of tiny sacs that contain essential oil. When the water boils, the steam passes up into the chamber. As the steam passes through the biomass, the temperature causes the tiny sacs to burst open, releasing the essential oil. The essential oil rises up with the steam, and together the oil and steam pass into a tube. This tube passes through a cold condensing chamber. The cold temperature changes the steam back into liquid, which drips out of the tube. The liquid collects in a new reservoir where the water and oil separate naturally. The water, which is called hydrosol, is left at the bottom, while the oil rises to the top.
So let's look at the lowest hanging fruit, Xerotime hydrosol. This is the one of the picture of the hand That's all she used on her hand with, and it took that fungal infection right off her hand she had had for 2 years in under a week. So just to understand that again, you have hydrophilic, this is that's this water here, and you have hydrophobic, the essential oil, and that's the difference here. So hydrosol, I heard when I was studying in France under Dr. Daniel Penawell, he told me, whoa, way back in the 90s, he said, you need to keep your eye on the hydrosols. He said they have power that we don't understand yet. And I remember writing that down as I was studying there with him, and I didn't think much of it, And when we had the hydrosol from the Spotted Bee Balm, I started, I'm going to look back into it. Well, here's what's so amazing about the hydrosol and many natural virtues, including therapeutic ones, that's what he was alluding to, because that water is impregnated with water-soluble forms of that aromatic molecules as essential oils. And there, when you do essential oils, you never get that water-soluble essence of the plant because it's always separated out. There's always about 1 to 2% essential oil in the hydrosol, but now you have hydrophilic and hydrophobic compounds. So it is super, super powerful. It is supercharged with more active principles than the essential oils by themselves from the plant because they have the hydrophilic ones that are hydrophilic ones that you won't find there. So it's absolutely amazing. And so who needs it? Anyone who wants an easy, safe way to acquire the benefits of essential oil coupled with a powerful water-soluble compound found in the plants. That's what it's for. And it works so well. I was going to put a video in here, and I didn't do it. I apologize, but I could find it real fast. But Kevin could unmute himself and tell you the story. His granddaughter loves the hydrosol. And the video I showed last night in my Zoom meeting was her actually asking for the hydrosol. She used it for a lot of bacterial problems and just cleared things right up for her. So what's it good for? I mean, nothing beats the hydrosol for a cotton eye pad to reduce puffiness and dark circles from under the eyes. But it's safe. You're not going to be screaming with burning eyes and stuff like that. You can put in lotions. You can do body spritz and faces. We've had people actually spray it and take care of pink eye. It can be added to a diffuser. It has really amazing proven results. Oh, actually, I did put that in there. Purifying, soothing, relaxing, copaíba, the stimulating frankincense hydrosol, and the purifying of the eucalyptus globus. Okay, so here we go.
Want more? Hey. Want more? More? Yeah. Want more?
Dana, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that she used that when they were living in Utah. She was with her cousins and she got, I don't know if it's called hoof and mouth. It's a viral infection in her mouth and she couldn't even swallow. And she sprayed, Julia, my daughter, sprayed that in her mouth. And then the next day she was healthy again.
Yeah, pretty powerful stuff. And it's kid friendly. That's what's so amazing. Juliet said last night on the call, she said we'd have to force her with the other medicines that we got. This one here, she sees the bottle and she wants it now. So
the one she really loves is your Arona berry, Arona chokeberry.
Yeah, Arona, yeah. We'll talk about that next. So how to use it? It's simple. Spray it, diffuse it in the mouth, put it in creams. It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's easy to use. And so this is the one that Kevin was talking about here, the Arona berry Xeratime infusion. Wanted to make something that would be nice for sore throats and a little more, because the hydrosol doesn't have a whole lot of flavor, but this one here is just power punch full of flavor. And so we have the Rona berry, vegetable glycerin, xerotyme hydrosol, xerotyme essential oils, and organic grain alcohol. And so this here is this here berry here, guys. It is a superfood. I don't know if you've heard about a Rona berry, but it is related to the choke cherry, if you're familiar with that. But it is different. They call it choke berry instead of choke cherry. But it's anti-diabetic action to it. It contains compounds called atheroscians, which can decrease the level of fat and sugar in the bloodstream and slows down the absorption of sugars and digestion. It also regulates how the body can break down and use carbohydrates, which is great for diabetics and for, weight management and blood sugar problems. And that, another bonus that it decreases inflammation, increases antioxidant levels in the body. The antioxidant level of the chokeberry is about 25,000 on the ORIC scale, which is huge. To give you a comparison, dark chocolate is about 12,000 on the ORIC scale. Strawberries is about 7,500. This is 25,000. So it's really powerful antioxidant, secondary antioxidant. So Rona berry is also excellent for heart health, protecting coronary artery disease. And there's several studies on this for lowering blood pressure and keeping the cells healthy. Anyone that is at risk of coronary arterial disease, they really need to take a look at that. But there's more. In 2016, the Rona juice was able to improve liver damage symptoms in mice. Multiple studies during the last decades show the effect of the cardiovascular system that had positive results. Micronutrients have shown to relax arterial tissue and improve blood flow, reduce high blood pressure against, protect against plaque. Fights cancer. One study examined the cancer-fighting effects of several berry extracts, including a Rona berry extract, found that the Rona berry is the most effective in preventing cancer growth. A Rona berry also is rich in antioxidants, which science has studied believe that's a crucial role in preventing cancer in some studies, and there's the research right there. It's pretty powerful. 2009, they conducted plant antioxidants like Rona berry can protect cells against oxidative stress. Observing breast cancer in patients, the Rona berry extract was proven to reduce cell damage and have a protective role for patients with breast cancer in vitro in the tests that were performed. And there's the research for that out of PubMed. Anti-inflammatory action, the root cause of many diseases, diabetes, cancer, heart disease. It showed that it stopped the process that sets off inflammation. So it's going to stop the cytokines from happening. It's absolutely amazing. Another study found that Rona berry with positive results for various diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, and liver damage. 2015, they improved the immune system and reduced diabetes-related oxidative stress and inflammation. So that you think about that, that's really protective when you're looking at people that have diabetes and they wind up having to have a digit or a foot or something amputated because of the inflammatory response and low blood flow. So it helps to fight against insulin resistance and improve obesity and glucose levels. Immune support, it's great for the immune system. Also contains natural antibacterial.
Costs are going up for Americans, for Westerners around the world. Several $100 million of goods have been rerouted around the good health. The world container index shot from 14.
All right, so here we go. If you have a fever, Rona berry may help aid in the body temperature regulation. Power packed. Here's a research here showing that out of 143 plants, the polyphenols, it had the most. It also has vitamin B, vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B6, C, K, folate, niacin, panthamic acid. It's just loaded. It is absolutely amazing. So how do you use it? Very simple. Boom. Spray it in your mouth. And we're seeing all kinds of amazing testimonies. Sore throats, gone. It's absolutely amazing. So the last thing I just want to talk about was the actual essential oil, the voice from the past, a treasure that come forth in this time because the plagues and pestilence that are going to come forth. We know about it. In fact, just wanted to share with you, this happened just 2 weeks ago. Here in Utah, it was at a ward just up the road from us. Some friends of ours, they were invited to this ward, and they came back and reported to us. They said, my best friend called me 2 weeks ago and invited my husband and I to their state conference. It was exciting to hear that Elder Bednar will be there. Well, let me tell you, I have heard him speak countless times and love his soft mannerisms, how he carries himself. He reminds me of President Kimball, small in stature, but powerful. But last Sunday had a voice of a lion, reminded me of President Benson or Bruce R. McConkie or President Brigham Young. I was floored and amazed. He told us word for word, quote, you better wake up and open your eyes. Let me repeat myself, he said, much louder this time. I got goosebumps this time as he repeated himself. You better wake up and open your eyes to what is coming. When you read the Book of Mormon, you shouldn't read it as a history book or as a book of the past, but you better read it to what is coming. It's your future. He quoted several passages of Alma. It was so powerful. So that was just 2 weeks ago, guys. And so when we look at this, what's coming down the road, I firmly believe that this was preserved for this time so that we could go forward and have something to help protect us with what is going to come. Because it's going to get worse. We've heard President Nelson say the ride's going to get bumpy. So it's kind of amazing. So once again, the Zeratime essential oil is what we're finding there. These are things that it possesses. I mean, it's loaded. It's absolutely loaded. So this comes right from Purdue University. This is plant science. Scientists find a recipe for anti-cancer compound. Here's that compound that the research lab, testing lab, told me to look into. And this is what's so amazing. It's much higher in Spotted Bee Balm than we have in thyme or oregano. But they're comparing this compound from thyme and oregano, because you will find it in there. And that's why they say we have to synthesize this and make it into a drug and isolate it, because we don't get enough in these compounds to do the job. And so it possesses an anti-cancer compound. That's what it looks like. That's the structure right there. And suppresses tumor development by adding more to your tomato sauce isn't going to get a significant benefit. That's what they're saying. There's just not enough of this in thyme and oregano, but we're seeing a lot more, 3 to 4 times more in Spotted Bee Balm. And the key to unlocking the power of these plants is to amplify the amount of compounds created or synthesizing the compound for drug development. So once again, their whole thought here was what I was thinking. We need to amplify the amount of this compound. I wanted to amplify it naturally. They're talking about synthesizing it. Thymol and carbachol and thymol dichloroquine are flavor compounds in thyme and oregano, and they're the plants of the family. There's that family that Kevin talked about, the mint family. Also have antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and other properties beneficial to the human health. Thymol hydroquinone has been shown as anti-cancer properties and is particularly of interest from the Purdue Laboratory Biology of Plants. And there's the research on that. You can read the whole article. They still want to synthesize it, but here's what's crazy about it. Remember that chart where I showed you in that corner, the phenol compounds, the monoterpenes that are found in oregano thyme? Those are also found in Spotted Bee Balm, and they super antibacterial, antispasmodic properties. You can't believe how many people have said, well, since I started using Spotted Bee Balm, I no longer have restless legs, or I no longer have cramping at night. Just absolutely amazing. But the anti-tumor activities there is just off the charts with this compound. Let's look at another superstar, parathymine. Numerous studies have demonstrated that the pharmacological properties of the monoterpene p-thymine includes antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiparasitic, anti-diabetic, antiviral, anti-tumoral, antibacterial, antifungal properties. And so you can kind of see as you start looking at the whole plant, if they isolated out one thing, you lose all these other benefits that is going to help your body. Many times I see people using essential oil and they're using it for gastric ulcer, and all of a sudden their rash clears up. And they're going, whoa, how'd that happen? Because they're multidimensional. They'll be working on the entire human frame, not just one specific target.
Get upstairs. It's 9 o'clock.
All right, so anyway, here it is. It is getting late, so we'll just go ahead and bust through this real quick. Just some really cool stuff here when we're dealing with the increase in activity of superoxide dismutase, SOD. Also helps with scavenging, and in vitro studies, it shows antibacterial agents against gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Also, this helps with redox signaling. How to use aromatherapy, topical use, put it in a capsule, make a tea, put it in creams, and it's just absolutely amazing. So Spotted Bee Balm, Monarda punctata, powerful base to the xerotime. That's what this is we just wanted to be able to get this plant that was reserved by Heavenly Father to literally give us the opportunity in the last days to have something to protect us from what is forthcoming. So with that, I will turn this back over to Lee. And thanks for staying with me as long as you did, guys. I apologize that I was long-winded.